asked, according to official statistics, how many people in the UK are unemployed? And the answer is 1.65 million.
You're watching The Right Stuff. Thank you. Live on 5 with Anne Diamond, David Bull and the genius that is Dave Gorman. Still to come, easy target. Still to come, a black president of the USA or a white woman. Which would you prefer, assuming, of course, that the Republicans don't get anywhere near the White House? What they stand for is basically the same, so maybe it is that simple a choice. 0207 173 5555. That's the number for your thoughts. But first, get a job or lose your council house. That's what Caroline Flint, our new housing minister, is thinking. Why should the rest of us bankroll up to 1 million skivers, paying them dole, subsidising their housing? They need to kick up their backsides. And I reckon few would argue with that. There is clearly a problem. The number of unemployed council tenants has risen from 20% to 55% since 1981, which is a huge jump. The problem is kicking people out of their homes the answer. I mean, what would happen to them? The family of 4. Mum, dad, 2 kids, right? Mum looks after the kids, dad goes down the pub. Are we going to throw them out on the streets because dad's the living embodiment of Frank Gallagher from Shameless? Eh? It seems a little harsh on the children, don't you think? To be made homeless because dad's lazy? The only alternative would be to rehouse the family, and if they're not offered another council house, then if we follow Caroline Flint's logic, it will be expensive P&B accommodation, because councils have a legal obligation to house families. Now, call me cynical, but I'm starting to suspect Miss Flint's plan is totally unworkable, David.
I just find it fascinating. I think, for a start, what have they been doing for 10 years? You know, the government has been in power that long, but it's also, to me, smacks of the government saying, being wrong-footed the whole time. And actually, if you see this across... this is a very political
I have heard
point,
other people say, of course, the main problem is, of course, you lots flogged off all the council houses, so there's no affordable housing for anybody else.
I actually think that being able to buy your council house was a really important
policy.
Well,
it would be if you replaced the ones that are sold with new council houses that people can afford.
I was about to say, the money... It wasn't me.
Yeah, you're one of them, the Blues, the Tories.
The Conservative Party has changed enormously since then. But
that's right.
You're absolutely right that the money should have gone back into providing fresh council housing. And there's huge problems with council housing stock. Most of it is terrible. If you've been to a council house, it's really... A lot of them are very dilapidated, they're really old-fashioned, they need masses of money spent on them. What we've got to do, and I do agree with some of what she's saying, is that there seems to be...
I'll just say, the way I've got a friend who lives in a high-rise just around the corner from me, and when I go there, apart from my mate, I haven't met anybody there that speaks English yet.
Right.
So what are we going to do with those people?
There are a number of issues here, which is that there are those people who really do deserve council accommodation, who need to be looked after by the state. There are those people who do not, and who are basically using the system.
We're going to run out of time here. What do you do with unemployed people who live in council houses who don't get a job?
I think you have to incentivise them, and they need to get back to work, and then a raft of measures to do that.
OK, but not kick them out of their houses.
I agree with you. I don't know how you do it with children involved.
The debate that this will cause is actually very, very good, because we are actually going to wake up to the fact that she's dead right. There are whole swathes of our communities which have a sort of nobody works round here culture. That's what you call it.
Because they've gone through a substandard education system where they've been allowed to run riot. They haven't been given any incentives, as David said quite rightly, to get on. They are the underclass that Shameless, you see it, Shameless, it's a dark comedy, but it ain't that far removed from real life. And now we're sitting around thinking, what are we going to do with the problem?
Well, that's right, and as a society we have got to sit back and actually try and... we've got to face up to it, first of all, and she's had a certain amount of courage just to say it.
Yes.
It's extraordinary it's coming out of a Labour government, it really is. But the fact that she said it will cause debate, and we do need to face these facts, because they're really unpalatable.
What would you do? Would you kick them out of their council houses?
No, because they just end up on your doorstep in a different way.
Exactly.
But you get society to change its attitude towards them, or to work towards themselves. You know, you can do it if you work hard enough at it. You create a culture which actually doesn't think it's cool not to work.
Wouldn't it have been interesting, though, if they came out and said, we're going to accept that the conditions, a lot of the council house conditions are appalling, right? They've been appalling for 40 years, and we all know it. That's where they're epicentres of crime, epicentres of social problems. Why don't we take a big gamble here, knock them all down, rebuild decent housing, and then see if people start taking care of their communities? I believe they tried it in Birmingham, knocking down high-rises there, and crime has gone down.
It does, because people improve their behaviour.
It costs money, that's the problem. Dave?
Oh, no, that's exactly. I think if you make the place where people live nicer and you give them a reason to look after it and to look after each other, then people have a different attitude, and that's where it starts. The idea of kicking them out of their houses is ridiculous. And stats that say the unemployment rate in council accommodation is higher than it is in the population at large, well, of course it is. That's what council accommodation's for for people who are at
Well, they should
the
be
wrong
making
end
an
of the
effort, wasn't it?
spectrum.
Low
That's
income.
to help them.
You've got 3/4 of under 25-year-olds living in Council Rocks are unemployed.
Yeah.
Which is a hell of a lot.
Yeah, yeah. But they would also tend to be, especially, and I would bet, anecdotally at least, you could look at some council places which are actually well maintained and have been recently refurbished, and I'll bet it's lower there than it is in the ones which are
Yes,
less well maintained, because it engenders an attitude in you that life is worth living and things that you can have nice things and you can go out and get something. If you're told this is where you live, and yeah, we know it's not very nice, and yeah, the lift doesn't work, and yeah, there's somebody urinated in the stairwell last night, it's pretty hard to think, well, I'm going to go out and do something about this.
OK, just before we go to the phones, David, they're saying that Caroline Flint dream is that this will one day be rolled across all council tenants, but initially she's saying those who move into council accommodation, new tenants, should sign a contract saying they're going to work. Do you think that's fair? Because I'm with Dave. I think council accommodation is people who are perhaps not working or in very low-income jobs.
Yeah.
It seems very weird to cut off the opportunity of housing to someone because they haven't got a job.
No, absolutely. And I think the whole point about having outreach centres and getting help in there to get people out to work is a really good idea. And the big problem is if you don't do that, you turn it into ghettos. You only have to look around here.
Yeah.
There are real ghettos. And as a doctor, I used to go to those where I was very, very frightened to be on those estates. That's got to stop. So there needs to be a lot of help on the ground.